Good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, today I will talk about cultural. Okay, so first of all, I would like to introduce my name. My name is Muhammad Reza bin Abdul Rahman. For those who not know me, then you know me now. Okay, I'm a master student. Okay. Today I will talk is about the important cultural on identity. So therefore, if everybody ready to hear a talk from our participant. Okay, so so I would like to invite Dr. Nur Atia Ismail to give her talk on the importance of cultural identity in built environmental development. So give an applause to her.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. We shall start our presentation or sharing. This is not so much of presentation or formal things, but this is very informal kind of intellectual discourse, and I expect a lot of discussion, inshallah. Yeah? So before we start, and this is a very blissful Friday morning, so maybe I would like to invite you to we pray for all the success and start our events today with Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah and Salawat. Okay, so today I have my students just now, Muhammad Rizal, one of my master students, has introduced, and for new face here, meaning I am Dr. Nur Atia Ismail from Landscape Architecture Department and one of Waris Research Group members. Yeah? So the rest are very familiar among our research group members. Yeah. So today we're talking about the importance of cultural identity in built environmental development, and I would like to share with you on these slides with basically talking about the development and cultural heritage of Kuala Lumpur and why we should always cherish our culture. And the reason will be in this presentation, inshallah. Yeah. Okay, so today the paper itself entitled Culture and Heritage, Prospect and Challenges in the Globalized Nation. Yes, so from time to time I believe that we are so much in conflict. Sometimes being designer, because me myself I'm a landscape architect, and then we have Dr. Zaki, one of our colleagues, and also Dr. Nuranita Manso. They are from architecture and interior design field, and we are also from almost the same field. Mei or Mei Ling, is it? Yi you is from you are from industrial design background. Interior design. Also, you have Dr. Nuranita here with you. Okay, so but I believe that this is one of the important issues that happening to us, the designer. Sometimes we have the responsibility to bring the culture into our design, into our development, but the request from our clients sometimes contradict to our inspiration, and but why we have to convince our client, but first of all, why we have to remind ourselves that in whatever we do, we need to always bring our culture together with us, because we are doing it for our people. Unless we are designing for people from overseas, then we need to learn the culture, because design is about way of living. Okay. And today I'm going to share with you this paper, which is basically composed by myself and also one of my students, Mesam. Okay. Alright, so he's already graduated. Okay, so now let's see that urban development in countries leads to the changes of cities' image. We're talking about city image, city soul and whatnot. So developing countries in particular witness much more extraordinary change or face due to the vast constructional interventions. Identity crisis, this is what we're talking. I believe what Dr. Sumani last week was also talking about identity crisis and how to strengthen identity in design. And this is another ways of looking in the scope of urban design. Yeah? And identity crisis is mere of irreversible damages that nations suffer due to the modernization, domination of high-rise buildings, development of infrastructures, and sprawl of traffic roads altogether transforms traditional landscape of our cities to an identical globalized image. I've been to Korea once. I've been to Seoul. That was for this IFLA Cultural Landscape Symposium. So we had a symposium in Seoul National University for about 2 days, and the next day is supposed to be our technical trip. And being in the Seoul itself, so when we call it as a technical cultural landscape tour, so do you know that we have to travel around, this is the shortest distance, around 4 hours from Seoul just to visit a traditional house of Korea. That means you have to go not in this, because the cultural things is not anymore in the city. So you have to travel. Right? That means it shows that the Seoul city is developed not according to the cultural identity. It is homogeneous. When you want to bring people to your country, you want to share the origins of the roots of your heritage, you have to travel. And luckily, we have transport. What about if, let's say, personal tourists, they don't really have transport, backpackers, and they don't have the information, and traveling 4 hours using via highway. So I think if it is in our road with our speed limit, it will take us around 6 hours to reach to the destination. So that means the city is not built based on the cultural values. If you want to see culture, you have to travel. So this is what's happening around the world, not only in Korea. And luckily, or unluckily, I think we're going to have the same issues in Kuala Lumpur sooner or later. But then, we didn't know, or we didn't realize, or not everyone aware, even the Malaysians, we didn't aware that Kuala Lumpur itself has their own heritage and the roots of the culture, where it is supposed to be here, why then we transported it to somewhere else. And if you want to go for it, you have to travel, and it will be a hassle for you. So as if like if you don't have to go and check our cultural identity, just enjoy the Seoul as it is. But then there are people like us, there are a group of people who believe that cultural identity is very important in development, and whenever you will go to the places that you will also learn about the origin of the heritage of the people in that place, right? And consequently, the exclusive culture and heritage of unique nations mellow down between modernization and urbanization movement. I just don't understand why when we go for modernization and urbanization, we have to dismiss our cultural, or we have to detach ourselves with our cultural and religious values. Why it has to be that way? It has been more than 5 decades or more than 10 decades where the urbanization is started to happen around the world, and the issues are almost similar. When we talk about Kuala Lumpur, Korea, Hong Kong. Even in Hong Kong, you don't see the origins or the culture of Hong Kong at all in the city, and so does in Seoul. All the new buildings, as if like when you are in Seoul, if you don't look at the people, the community, then you will see that you are somewhere else, maybe in US or in Canada, because of the building image and also other infrastructures. Okay. In Malaysia, amongst other Oriental countries, move forward as a consequence of the rapid surge of economic growth in the eastern part of the globe. So the Greater Kuala Lumpur as a metropolitan area and the capital of 13 states and 3 federal territories witnessed an incredible transformation towards the global orientation just through the past few decades. So I'm going to take you to the evolution of Kuala Lumpur city this morning. Okay, inshallah. Right? So this is Kuala Lumpur today. Oh, not yet. This one, oh sorry, name is not yet this one. Okay, this one. We pull this one first here. Go back. Oh, okay, it's supposed to be this one. This one, So Kuala Lumpur, fast-growing metropolitan, rapid developments of Malaysia have resulted into unrestrained urban growth in majorities of the major cities, particularly in Kuala Lumpur, the capital city. So this is Kuala Lumpur today, right? So you see all the skyscrapers, but has anyone ever sit down for a moment and ask ourselves, what was the image of Kuala Lumpur before? And before we get all these tall buildings, this is one of the tallest twin towers in the world. What was the land use of this space before? I basically grown up in Kuala Lumpur, so basically I witnessed the changes of image of this particular site, which is KLCC, that used to be a race course that was in 1970s until 1980s. There was supposed to be a race course. So you see, it's an event place. So I think after the government decided to build our skyscraper here, then the land use is totally changed. And sadly, the values of the history or the idea of the place before it's just gone like that. So we don't even know what was the space used before. We don't even know, especially for the youngsters. I'm so lucky because I'm older than you, so I witnessed the changes. But how about you? You don't know what's happening. And what we're supposed to do is actually, when we design a space, we have to bring, you don't have to basically totally scrap out the image that we have before. Why don't you cherish the identity of the space before and bring it together with the current use of the design? And I don't want to say much, but sometimes because KLCC is basically designed, or the concept was basically developed by the foreigner, not by the local. So that's why when I'm not against this, but sometimes when you are coming into other people's place, so you need to know what are the history behind it and always embellish them in the new design. But now what happened to KLCC is like a new place. It's like this is how we grow, and the history just gone like that. So this is one of the issues, right? Okay. Now let's enjoy the video.
It's a city of people. All those people.
wise to educate those extensively, because they're not as a class of people and looking at education might be their direction to do anything much.
It's home. It's a place where all my friends are, my friendships are made, my business has been started, and that's a place where I come back and I land and also secure realities. It's like home.
Okay, so this morning I'm sharing with you the story of Kuala Lumpur. Sometimes we tend to forget. So if you look at the video just now, it is so touching, right? From the time, the evolution, people started to discover something and becoming greedy, and blood and tears is just nothing, because we want to develop, we want to grow. So if you look at the video, Kuala Lumpur developed with blood and tears, right? So it is not a happy city, right? And we have to, there's lots of contestation between for the economic growth, yeah? But then and then the greediness came. But then because of, I think, the blessing of the creators, Kuala Lumpur still grow as what we can see today. But then we are not talking about the city, the infrastructure only, but the soul of the city. So how to make people live happily ever after in Kuala Lumpur. As what our past mayor of Kuala Lumpur said, that Kuala Lumpur is a city of people, is a city for people. Yeah, so but now, do we think that Kuala Lumpur is definitely a city for people or city for cars and boxes? Let us think about it, right? In culture heritage, by definition, of course, we've got to go through theories and definitions. So why it is so important? Because cultural heritage is the legacy of physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group or society that are inherited from past generations, maintained in the present, and bestowed for the benefit of our future generations. So I always believe that a strong community or strong people, because you can always pay people people to come and develop your countries, like you are paying people to come and develop your company. But then, where is the heart and soul of the place? So we're talking about this. And then, why the cultural heritage is very important? Because it maintains the present and best owed for the benefit of our future generations. If we really understand our history, if we really know our root, that is supposed to be the platform for you to jump higher, to jump as high as possible in order to grow yourself and at the same time growing your country. And I always believe that history makes lots of influence a lot of the country and also society growth. If I bring you back to Japan, to Tokyo in Japan, you see, the Japanese people were all like us before the Second World War, the Hiroshima bomb and whatnot. So after that, when they saw lots of death and they see the country has nothing at all, so there were the time where the government bring people spiritually, strengthen the people to see Japan as a new country, Japan as a country that has never been, for example, bullied by anyone else in the world. Japan as a country that has its own strength. And if you look at Korea and Japan, where they have lots of difficulties to grow due to the landform and whatnot, but we see how much they have grown today, and they have becoming well-known technology and also economic grown countries in the world. So does Korea, yeah? So does Tokyo, and so does Hong Kong. Yeah? So now, why the importance of culture and heritage in our country? Because that is basically for our generations to really know ourselves and to really jump and grow from the history and also from the roots of our people. Alright, and it reveals that the heritage is not only materials and objects and not those which are limited to time. It concurrently is a basis of present and launch pad for the future. So history, culture, heritage is the launch pad for our future generation. And imagine if we don't have this anymore. If we're not having this discussion or discussions only among us, who are basically well aware of the importance of culture and heritage. How about our school children? Where do we go? What are their inspiration to move forward? What do they want for the future? What they want to be in the future? They don't have this inspiration. They just grow as time passes by. Because the parent asks them to go to school. The parent asks them to be a doctor. But why a doctor? Why do we need a doctor in our country? No one cares. Right? So, and based on this definition, due to the time-independent nature of culture and history heritage, process of decay is now inevitable, right? And therefore, preservation and conservation of cultural heritage must be considered as necessary, and especially when heritage lies inside a fast-expanding economy and developing urban growth. Okay, so now let me bring you to the historic urban areas, prominent heritage assets. Okay, UNESCO described cultural significance of historic areas to be able to represent the sense of connectivity, provide link between the experiences of the past to the present. In order to be another heritage are those characteristics which are able to lead to well-shaped identity and culture of cities in a modern era. Losing the relationship with the past causes a gradual discontinuity. This is something that we are so afraid of, yeah? That means losing this interrelationship with the past causes a gradual discontinuity with rich experiences which lasted for ages. And I think I have right to say that this is the reason why our younger community, our school children, they are so fragile. You can actually give them anything and they can accept everything in the world. Right? So they don't have a platform to sieve the information. They don't have basis why they only have to take certain things, not everything. Because they don't understand the past. Or maybe we are so much, or we are working so hard to discontinue our tradition by our city images and also by our city design. We don't know. But this is a time when we have to recheck what we have done. And this is one of the traditional building. If you look at this building, you know that this must be a building that belongs to the Asian countries. It has to be in Asian countries, no matter maybe it will be in Thailand or in Indonesia or in Malaysia. Definitely cannot be in the European countries because of the architectural design. But what happened to our houses right now? You can actually bring, or you can actually take the same design and do it in Tokyo, because it is homogeneous design. But this is the one that is rooted in our culture. Where does all these architectural or landscape styles gone? Who are paying attention to them? We are talking about let's say we're talking about the trend of landscape architecture in the next 10 to 15 years. The trend is basically bringing back nature to the city. So now all landscape architects, all developers, I was just attending one of the landscape competition last week, and the developer was actually wanting to bring forests into the development, into the residential on ex-mining land. You see how much they have to do amendment to the soil and whatnot to recreate forests in the ex-mining land. But at least he has an intention, because that is basically the trend for landscape architecture. How about the trend of building? Don't we think that we need to bring our tradition, our culture, and our character, our identity images into our building design, into our structure design? Because if we are not helping our country, believe me, no one else, right? Okay, so Kuala Lumpur, now we're talking about Kuala Lumpur. I'm taking you to the Madi Confluence. This is the origin of Kuala Lumpur, the Madi Confluence. Lumpur is actually mud, the Madi Confluence. This is the origin, this is where the dots of the whole development started. So it is basically Sungai Kelang and Sungai Gombak, dated back to 1850s. Seminole settlements started to develop in this area, and then we have primitive, administrative, really small, and civic buildings appeared for the first time. It was the beginning of the traditional environment, which provided people with a great sense of belonging and place attachment. So when we developed Kuala Lumpur in the beginning, it is with the sense of pride, with the sense of place attachment and sense of belonging, right? And as the people started, and as important part of traditional community, this environment established as relationship among physical surrounding and various ethnics of the inhabitants. This is Dr. Noshidaya. She's one of our members in the faculty. So since the end of 19th century, the city grew up quickly, and this area became an administrative center for the Federal Malay State in 1957. Okay, so now let me bring you to what was Kuala Lumpur in 1860. How does it look like? This is only the area of Kuala Lumpur in 1860s. This is the original character of the city, which we cannot see at all today.